Hello all, welcome to Paritranaya. In this video, we shall discuss about an important history topic, the first major challenge, that is the Revolt of 1857. So when it comes to modern history, we have multiple sources. It may be Bipan Chandra, Spectrum and many other sources. Often the aspirants get confused as to which to read and which to skip, whether we have to refer multiple sources and all. So multiple sources are not required for all the topics. So for example, in this topic, only Bipan Chandra content would be more than sufficient to tackle any kind of questions in prelims as well as mains. And in Bipan Chandra, this chapter, it runs close to 10 pages. Here we have brought it down to just 2 pages, keeping in mind the demand of the examination. And this information would be sufficient for both prelims as well as mains for topic related to the first major challenge, Revolt of 1857. So, when we say the Revolt of 1857, we do not refer to just one single event that has taken place. Multiple events have taken place. All these events together, we call it as the first major challenge or the Revolt of 1857. We also refer to it as the first war of Indian independence. And it is often famously referred as even Sepoy Mutiny as well. So, all of them, they are referring to the same revolt, that is the Revolt of 1857. So, this revolt, first it began at Meerut. So when we are discussing, always let us keep in our mind that what kind of questions can be framed in the prelims and what way we can use this information in mains. So these two things we should always keep it in mind. So in prelims, what kind of questions can be framed? Where did the Sepoy Mutiny first start? The Sepoy Mutiny first started at Meerut. Similarly, once we complete this topic, we will understand that how this information can be used to create answers in mains as well. So the first Sepoy Mutiny, first it began at Meerut. So how did it begin? So people, they appealed to Bahadur Shah II. Bahadur Shah II, so he was the Mughal emperor, to become their leader, to give legitimacy to their cause. Now when you are fighting for something and if you do not have a leader, then it does not have any kind of legitimacy. It does not have any value. So whenever you are starting a movement, you require a leader. Similarly, the Sepoys wanted leader, and that's why they appealed to Bahadur Shah II, who was the Mughal emperor, to become their leader and give the legitimacy to the cause. And in that context, he was proclaimed as Shahenshah-e Hindustan. Shahenshah-e Hindustan, and as a result of Sepoy Mutiny at Meerut, so Delhi was captured from the Britishers. Delhi was captured by the Sepoys from the Britishers. So here what kind of question can be framed? Who was proclaimed as Shahenshah-e Hindustan? Bahadur Shah II. Where did the Sepoy Mutiny begin? It began at Meerut. So these are the various things which we should memorize from prelims point of view or understand from prelims point of view. Next, where all did it spread? UPSC will also focus on such kind of areas. So whether it was limited to a particular area or it spread across India. So let us understand here. So almost all over North India, not completely, almost all over North India, as well as central and western India. So there is no exact demarcation for what is northern India, what is central India, and what is western India. So for time being, to make our understanding easier, we can understand that Uttar Pradesh and next Punjab, Jammu and Kashmir. So these are all northern part of India. So central part of India means Madhya Pradesh. When it comes to western part of India, it can be Gujarat or Rajasthan, even Maharashtra as well. Very important to remember that South India remained quiet. It means in 1857 revolt, South India did not play an active role. So even they can frame a question like this: South India played an active role. No, South India did not play an active role in 1857 revolt. Next, even in northern India, Punjab marginally affected. It means Punjab, even though it participated, but not up to the extent as we witnessed the participation in other northern parts of India like Uttar Pradesh and all. Next, Bengal was also marginally affected. Means the participation was not up to the mark. Next, it spread to few of the important cities like Kanpur, Lucknow, Banaras, Allahabad, Bareilly, Jagdishpur and Jhansi. So even these city names are important. Sometimes UPSC will focus, so to which of the following places did the first war of independence spread its wings. So such kind of questions can be framed. So even that is important. Next, at few of these important places, we shall learn who are the important personalities who led the revolt. So at Kanpur, the revolt was led by Nana Sahib. Nana Sahib, adopted son of Peshwa Bajirao II. Peshwa Bajirao II. Similarly, at Lucknow, it was led by Begum Hazrat Mahal. And at Bareilly, it was Khan Bahadur. In Bihar, Kunwar Singh, who was 70-year-old man. So this 70-year, it is not important from prelims point of view. But when you are writing a mains answer and you want to show the participation of different section of the society, so if you mention about the age, then it indicates that even age-old people had participated in the 1857 revolt. So in that context, the 70-year will become important. Otherwise, the 70-year is not important from prelims point of view. At Jhansi, it was led by Rani Lakshmi Bai. So an important event here. So why did Rani Lakshmi Bai revolt against the Britishers? Because Dalhousie had brought a new rule that is called as doctrine of lapse. So what is this doctrine of lapse? If any dynasty does not have a heir, then that property will be confiscated by the Britishers. So Britishers will take the property. So Rani Lakshmi Bai did not have a son, so she adopted a son, but Britishers, they did not allow. Under doctrine of lapse, an adopted son could not be considered as a heir, so that's why they confiscated all the property of, or they tried to confiscate the property of Rani Lakshmi Bai. So that is why she revolted against Britishers. She revolted against Britishers. Next. So that is what. So doctrine of lapse, by applying doctrine of lapse, state was annexed. So everything was taken from Rani Lakshmi Bai by Britishers. Next. Here in this context, we also need to know about the important regiments and the role played by them. So few of the important regiments are 19th Native Infantry at Behrampur. So it refused to use newly introduced Enfield rifles and hence was disbanded. So the sepoys who are working in 19th Native Infantry, they refused to use Enfield rifle. Why they refused to use? Because the grease which was used in this Enfield rifle was made up of pig and cow fat, and they considered that it will hurt their religious sentiment and they refused to use it. That's why the whole of the regiment was disbanded. Another important regiment, 34th Native Infantry. So we know about this personality, famous personality, Mangal Pandey. He fired at sergeant major of his regiment. So he was executed. He was killed and the regiment got disbanded. The regiment was decommissioned. One more important regiment, 7th Oudh Regiment. So defied its officers and was disbanded. So the sepoys who are working in the 7th Oudh Regiment, they did not follow the orders of their superiors or officers, and hence they were the regiment was disbanded. Here very important, not all the armies, sepoys fought against the Britishers. There were some regiments which were in favor of Britishers, which remained loyal to Britishers. So among them, very important, Madras. So Madras army, it remained totally loyal to British. It means it did not participate in the mutiny against the Britishers. So very important point. Next comes the question, why the sepoys revolted despite the economic stability they enjoyed? So during British rule, most of the people who were working in British army were Indians. So they used to get monthly salary and many other facilities and all. So they had a good economic stability. So despite this fact, why did the sepoys participate in the mutiny? So this is a question. So there are different reasons for this. So one important and prominent among them was religious sentiments were hurted. Religious sentiments of the sepoys were hurted, and that is why they joined the mutiny, or they went against the Britishers. So there are few examples. In 1824, 47th Regiment of Barakpur was ordered to go to Burma. So to participate in a war, so one regiment was ordered to go to Burma. But while going to Burma, they had to cross the seas. And to religious Hindu, crossing the sea meant loss of caste. So once you cross the seas, it means your caste has been lost. You no longer belong to that caste. So after the war, when they returned back, people did not accept them into their society. So this was one reason. Similarly, during Afghan war, they ate whatever came their way. So generally most of the Hindus were vegetarians. So during Afghan war, as they did not have sufficient food to eat, so whatever came their way, whether it was veg or non-veg, everything they consumed. So when they consumed non-veg, so they became outcast. So when they returned back to their native places, they were not allowed to mingle with the society. So in this way, these different conditions to which they were subjected because of the British rule, so their religious sentiments got hurted, and this forced them to revolt against the Britishers. So many were not welcomed back in their Biradari caste fraternity. Also, there were some reports of mixing of bone dust with atta. So atta is something which is used to make chapatis and all. So bone dust and atta, both of them, they appear same. So in order to what, some people use this method of what, mixing the bone dust with atta and all, and this also hurted the religious what, sentiments. Next, the cartridges of Enfield rifles had to be bitten off, and the grease was reportedly made of beef and pig fat. So the rifles, Enfield rifles, so they had to be bitten off, but while biting off, it consisted of what? It was the grease which was used, it was made up of beef and pig fat. Suppose if they consume that beef and pig fat, then it will hurt the religious sentiments. So that's why many of them refused it. And this also forced the Sepoys to revolt against the British, because this hurted their religious sentiments. This was about the religious sentiments. Next, religious sentiments was not the only reason. There were few other reasons as well. Emoluments not on par with Britishers. So in British army, Sepoys belonged to both India as well as Britain. So the Britain Sepoys, so they were given generally higher rank, officers and all. And our Indian Sepoys, generally they could not move to the higher ranks and all. And apart from that, the salary of Indian Sipahi was not on par with the Sepoys of Britain. It means there was a discrimination. So this discriminatory treatment also forced our Sepoys to revolt against the Britishers. So this is one more important reason. Next, another important reason is peasants' problems. What are the peasants' problems? Like new land revenue system and excessive taxation. Now, most of the Sepoys who are in the British army, they came from a peasant family, from agrarian background. So their family back home, they were involved in agriculture. So here back home, there was an excessive taxation and land revenue system, which made them to incur more losses, because most of the earnings was to be paid in terms of taxes. So there was a huge loss to the people who are working back home, their family members. So again, these peasant problems also had an influence on the Sepoys. Okay, one is the hurting of religious sentiment. Next is salary or not par with the Britishers, and third one is back home peasants problems. So all these various problems, they influenced the Sepoys to revolt against the Britishers. Next, at the same time, it was not Sepoys alone. Aristocrats also faced humiliation. So many talukdars opposed the British rule. So aristocrats are the people who belong to elite family. So all these years, the people who were loyal to Britishers also, now they faced humiliation, and they were also willing to join hands with the Sepoys against the Britishers. So very important point. Next, British rule also brought misery to artisans and handicrafts. British discouraged Indian handicraft and promoted British goods. No alternative work led to their disenchantment. So Indian artisans, in the sense it may be cloth making or carpenter. So all these are examples of what? Articrafts and handicrafts. Now, for their products, they did not get sufficient market. Why the Indian handicrafts and articrafts did not get sufficient market? Because Britishers, they promoted British goods. So when I say promoted British goods, it means tax on British goods were less, whereas tax on Indian made products was more. And generally when we have two different products, we go for always a cheaper one. So Indian manufactured products or made products, made by artisans and handicrafts, they became costly, and those made by British industries, they become cheaper. So that is why all of them, they started purchasing British goods, and the artisans and handicrafts, they faced a loss because there was no market for them. None of them were willing to purchase their products. So in this case, they also did not have any alternative work to earn their livelihood. So this led to their disenchantment. So they are dissatisfied with the British rule. In this context, again, this name is important. So Mauli Ahmad Shah of Faizabad played an important role. Next, because UPSC generally focuses on the personalities associated with any of the revolts and movements, so this name becomes important. Next, Court of Administrators was established in Delhi. As part of 1857 revolt, Court of Administrators was established in Delhi. Important. Next, after this, we witnessed that this revolt, it did not succeed. Suppose if it had succeeded, then we would have got independence in 1857 itself. But subsequently, there were many movements which we will be discussing later on, but did not succeed. So what were the reasons for failure? It's very important to understand the reasons for failure as well. So Bahadur Shah and Zinat Mahal had no faith in the sepoys and negotiated with the British to secure their safety. So initially Bahadur Shah joined hands with the sepoys to revolt against the Britishers, but later on he lost confidence in the sepoys. He was not sure that with the help of these sepoys we will be able to revolt against the Britishers. So in order to ensure his safety, he joined hands with Britishers. Okay, joined hands with Britishers to secure his safety. So this was one reason. Next, there was no political perspective or definite vision for future. So again, this is an equally important reason. Because in the later phases of our independence movement, for example, it may be Swadeshi movement or non-cooperation movement, civil disobedience movement or quit India movement, we had a clear vision, means what kind of country we need to have, what kind of administrative system we want. So all this clarity we had. But in 1857 revolt, we did not have a clear future. Okay, after British, what next? There was no answer to it. So this was one of the reasons why it failed. Next, absence of leadership. So in 1857 revolt, leaders were there at the local level, but at the all India level, there were no leaders who could mobilize the masses. But in the later movements of non-cooperation movement, civil disobedience movement and quit India movement, we had great leaders like Mahatma Gandhiji and many others. So because of them, we were able to mobilize the masses. But here, absence of such a leadership was another important reason for the failure of 1857 revolt. Next, finally, what was the outcome of the revolt? We know that you are not successful, but what are the major outcomes? Very important to understand these outcomes as well. So Bahadur Shah was captured and he was deported to Burma. He was sent to Burma. Rani of Jhansi, she died in 1858. Okay, that June 17, that date and all is not important. Approximately, she died in 1858. So here, General Hugh Grose, who defeated her. So during war between Rani of Jhansi and General Hugh Grose, so Hugh Grose defeated Rani of Jhansi. But after defeating her, he paid high tributes to his enemy. Whose enemy? His enemy was Rani of Jhansi. So what he said? He said that here lay the woman who was the only man among the rebels. Very important. Okay. Even though he had defeated Rani of Jhansi, but he was so much impressed by her performance that he quoted like this: here lay the woman who was the only man among the rebels. So very important statements. So such kind of statements, we have to note it down in a separate book. And while writing mains answers, we should quote such kind of examples based on the demand. For example, if we are writing any answer related to women empowerment and all, we can quote this. Okay, definitely it will create an impression. Next, Nana Sahib. So he refused to give up and finally escaped to Nepal in 1859, hoping to renew the struggle. So Nana Sahib escaped to Nepal with the hope that in the future we can again renew the struggle. Kunwar Singh, he kept Britishers guessing till his death in 1858. So he also started moving from one place to another place to escape the Britishers and finally died in 1858. Tantia Tope, so successfully carried out guerrilla warfare. So it's one of the technique of warfare, guerrilla warfare. So he was very famous in it. Tantia Tope was betrayed by a zamindar. Betrayed means he was cheated by a zamindar, and this zamindar, he framed a conspiracy, and finally Tantia Tope was caught by British forces and he was put to death by the Britishers. So this was the outcome of 1857 revolt. So close to 10 pages that we have in Bipan Chandra, we have reduced it to just 2 pages. So this crispy material, which will benefit us like anything during the prelims examination. From revision point of view, it will be very much beneficial. Similarly, the same amount of information would be more than sufficient for even our mains examination when it comes to 1857 revolt. So generally when it comes to prelims, the trend is like this. So generally they will be asking about the important personalities associated with any of the movements or any of the revolts. So here are the important personalities. Already we have encountered them, but I have listed the personalities associated with 1857 revolt. So we came across Bahadur Shah II, Mangal Pandey, Nana Sahib, Peshwa Bajirao II, Begum Hajrat Mahal, Khan Bahadur, Kunwar Singh, Rani Lakshmi Bai, Dalhousie, Maulvi Ahmad Shah, Zinat Mahal, Tantia Tope, Hugh Groves. So all these names, they appeared in this context of 1857 revolt. So these names are important. So just to test that we have understood the topic properly, just let us scan through these questions and try to answer these questions. So answer these questions. Sepoy Mutiny first began at, you have to answer it. So where it began. Next, Mangal Pandey of 19th Native Infantry fired at Sergeant Major. Okay, so whether it is true or false, you should answer. Both North India and South India actively participated in 1857 revolt. Again, you have to answer it as true or false. Doctrine of lapse was introduced by Richard Wellesley. Answer it in true or false. Nana Sahib led the 1857 revolt at Bareilly. So answer this as true or false. 1857 revolt was driven entirely by sepoys' problems and peasants' problems had no connection with it. Next. Madras army remained totally loyal to British during 1857 revolt. Answer it again in true or false. British rule benefited artisans tremendously as they got access to markets in Britain. So answer it in true or false. Next, had there not been hurting of religious sentiments, sepoys would not have gone for mutiny because they were enjoying economic stability and also emoluments on par with the British officers. Answer it in true or false. Next, during 1857 revolt, court of administrators was established at Meerut. So here this also you have to answer it in either true or false. So after reading this topic, if you are able to answer these questions, it means you understood the topic properly. Otherwise, I will urge you to go through the video once again, understand and try to answer this question once again. In this fashion, when we move ahead, then the clarity of that topic will become very clear. So here we have completed with the first topic, that is 1857 revolt. In the subsequent videos, we will be discussing about all the other important topics related to modern history. For all our further updates, subscribe to our channel and hit on the bell icon. Thank you.